Hello and welcome to the 46th episode of the Pirates Rugby Podcast. We've got a jam-packed show coming up today covering every single, and we really mean it, every single international rugby match that was played over the weekend and maybe the odd club result as well. If you're listening to the audio version, please give us a lovely 5-star review. And if you're watching on YouTube, please leave us a lovely comment. If you're nice, we always reply, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can find our socials in the Linktree link in the description boxes down below. And you can follow our Substack, where every Friday you'll get a newsletter looking ahead at the weekend's action, finding out where you can watch all of that action on TV using Ender's Rugby TV Guide. And you'll also get our Sunday long read articles. We've got some great stuff that's already drafted that's going to be in your inboxes over the coming weekends. Don't miss out. As you can probably already tell, my normal friend and colleague Ender is not with us tonight. He's busy doing real life things. But we've got more than an able deputy stepping in for him, an honorary pirate, someone who needs no introduction. It is our friend from Bloemfontein. It is Jade Craig. Jade, how are you, sir?
Good, you. Thank you for having me again. Thank you for being able to listen to me again and bearing with me again.
Thank you for braving the cold of Bloemfontein to be with us. What are you telling me? 5 degrees? -7?
Yes, -7, 5 degrees. So yeah, it was kind of cold aside.
I saw there was a clip going around socials of wind blowing water up Table Mountain or something this morning.
Something like that, yeah. But it's cold in South Africa, yeah. There was some footage of the aeroplane in Bloemfontein with a jacket on, so.
Yeah. I think a lot of people of our listeners in Europe would have not realized that you can get -degrees in Africa, but there you go. Learn a new thing every day.
It's cold, yeah. I think that's why we don't have URC here anymore.
Yeah. So Super Rugby would have been played in these conditions, right? Or just finished? It would have finished by now.
Just be finished, yeah. Just be finished.
Yeah. I bet that's one thing that probably the Kiwis aren't sad to be.
No, it's really because it's cold in Christchurch and those places, and the Canberra is very cold as well. So I think.
Oh, true.
They're used to it, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Let's go on with our moment of the week. So my moment of the week is Lewis Hamilton winning a Grand Prix. It's not rugby related, but I am a Lewis Hamilton super fan, and I'll be damned if I'm going to go a week of him winning a Grand Prix and me not mentioning it, especially because it's been so long. So that's my moment of the week. We'll talk about all the rugby in a minute, but Lewis Hamilton won, and I'm going to make sure that everybody knows about it. What about you, mate? What was your rugby moment of the week?
It's been a long wait there, you. But yeah, now my moment of the week, there's been a few. I mean, DJ Perenaura leading the haka again, after he tore his Achilles against England a few years ago and coming back and leading. But for me, my moment of the week has to go to the Island in the Bok game. The national anthem sang, the African national anthem sang. It was absolutely awesome. And it was one of the few occasions you could hear it a little bit if you're used to it, but you normally get the increase in sound when Afrikaans sport get in, but this national anthem was belted out, from the start to the end, and it was absolutely awesome. Goosebumps moment for every South African.
Who was the singer who was singing it? Was she a famous singer?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure who was the singer. I'm not too good with musicians, but yeah.
But yeah, she held the microphone out. It looked incredible, and it felt incredible just over the TV. I know a lot of South Africans were getting very emotional.
It was awesome. I think it was a fitting anthem, for the first game as world champions in South Africa. I think it was, it marked the occasion, yeah.
Yeah, so I googled it after I'd seen it, because the girlfriend was talking about it, because my girlfriend's really into languages and things. She was like, "What languages is it in?" And I was like, I thought it was just Xhosa and then English, but then no, it's like the first verses in Zulu, something like that.
Yeah. In Xhosa and Setswana, things a little bit Sotho in there as well, or English or Afrikaans, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great anthem! I absolutely love it. It's definitely shut up amongst my favourites. In the Six Nations, we like to debate the anthems a lot. The Welsh or the Scottish ones are normally the two favourites. I love the French one. I love the Italian one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the South African one is definitely the best of the Southern Hemisphere, in my opinion.
Fun fact, in the 1995 World Cup, that time everybody was just World Cup mad in South Africa, and I was a young kid, and they had the CDs or cassettes, like those times running around, you play in your car, the dad's car with all of the national anthems on and stuff. So I know about 10 national anthems off the top of my head.
That's awesome. Did you watch Go on, sorry.
Nah, so I would attempt to sing the Welsh one, but it's quite difficult. But the rest, yeah, I know all of them.
With the Welsh one, the trick is just to cry, and so it's too it you don't have to learn it. It's just too emotional. If you sing it, it's just too much. Did you see the Argentina-France game?
I saw bits and drabs of it. I've got this. Honestly, I feel that Argentina's terrible at home.
Yeah,
But
we'll
also
come on
I've
to it a
got
bit
this.
later, but
Yeah, I've got this bad taste in my mouth when it comes to France and not sending their full strength teams. I just feel
yeah,
that
we'll
it's
talk.
and also the coverage from Argentina is not the best, unless it's rugby championship where it's South Africa or New Zealand playing there, then I'll really watch. But the coverage is not really the best from Argentina. We had it even when the Jaguars played in Super Rugby. Yeah, it's really you struggle to watch it. But I watched bits and drabs of it. I picked up on it, but yeah, like I said, it's one of those games.
But
If I missed it, I didn't miss a lot.
the reason I bring it up is because the anthem was horrendous. Like, I don't know whether it was just the microphoning of it or the recording of it or something, but all of like the big brass band sounded out of tune. Like the singing wasn't great. And I was like, this is bad. And again, like the other one was like, you can't say that. And then she listened to it for a bit and she's like, oh no, this is bad.
But
Like, yeah.
but ever see the New Zealand England game? I think the lady really made a mess with the New Zealand national anthem because afterwards she was very out of tune and it didn't sound that good. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but then they just get to do the hacker, which makes up for it, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that should be the trade-off for the hacker is that they get a rubbish anthem. And whenever Wales go away, because our anthem is supposed to be like dead slow and like dead
hmm
powerful, but whenever we go away, people tend to play it fast.
hmm
So you normally end up with like the singer and the band who's playing it at one speed, and all the fans and the players singing it slower.
I
It's
can
just
remember that because I remember in Bloemfontein a few years ago with the test, I sat amongst the Welsh supporters, and I picked it up.
so, going to do some listeners' moments of the week. So, David, shout out, David says, Ireland suddenly deciding that South Africans will be required to obtain a visa before they come to the country anymore. That's a new law as of today. I don't know what triggered it.
I saw, yeah. South Africans in
Uh,
Botswana, as I saw it, yeah.
yeah. So Scrumming Fly Half, our friend Scrumming Fly Half says the Boks penalty try. We'll talk plenty about that at the end. What a moment that was. Poor Relations Rugby, who's a great friend to us on Twitter, says Ireland under 20s last gasp try to beat Georgia. We'll talk about the under 20s championship later on in the show. Maz, our friend Maz, says her mate Flash, aka Dakuwaka, scoring 2 tries on debut for Fiji against Georgia. Again, more on that later. And a lesser known friend of ours, Ntaba Zinto, says Razzie's song, aka Zombie, being sung 6 times during the game at Loftus, even though it drives some, not all, but some of the Irish insane.
They're gonna milk that song.
Definitely. They're going to say, we won it now. We played you for it, and it's ours. Let's start with that game then. So, what did you make of that? The big
Oh,
two, the top of the table clash, as we should call it. Did it live up to the billing?
I think so. I think so. And I mean, if you look at the scorecard, it's not like Ireland never, tried or they were battered and bruised. They had a good game plan and they stuck in there. And they could have won the game. They could have won the game. I mean, they had a few moments there. I'm thinking of the James Lowe disallowed try,
Mm.
brings it level, the crucial time in the game. I mean, they handled what the Boks threw at them, although Pollard kept them in the game, by missing a few kicks. But I think Ireland, they can, I wouldn't say hold their heads up high because their target was to win that game, and make a statement. But they could have won it. They could have won it. But yeah, it was a very, very good game, If it was a World Cup final, we would have said, well done. What a World Cup final.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great event. I loved people. Some people have started like asking the question about them playing all the music and things at Loftus and stuff, and how maybe they don't like it. And I'm like, yeah, but most of the people at that stadium who are in there probably don't go to very many rugby games. So if you're like the organizers of the event, you're saying, look, if we want these people to come back, we need to make it accessible. We need to make it fun to people who maybe aren't that into rugby. So I kind of like it that way. And I loved all the build up in the week of like the hype video that South Africa put out on the official account. I loved when the bomb squad came on and the announcer in the stadium went, and now the bomb squad, and they came on, everyone goes mad. I just love that. I think South Africa is kind of doing it the best in the world at the moment because it's like the Irish wouldn't do that in Dublin. It's just not how they are. Like they love the event, they care. It's not that they don't care as much, of course they do. It's not that they're not having as great a time. It's just they do it differently. But I like that South Africa is doing it their own way, and they're not trying to be. They're not scared of trying new things,
Yeah, it's like that if you're mentioning it to us now that, we take note, but we've become so accustomed to it that every stadium we get, songs played. I remember when Mordenstein used to play, and every time you get the conversion or penalty, simply the best would play. And that would be a song. And there was a few Afrikaans songs for a few other players as well. So, we're used to it, and Cheetahs also have a few songs when they play here. So, I mean, we all used to become accustomed, and obviously Sweet Caroline gets thrown in there, a few times, and it irritates a few people. So, no, it's all good, and all entertainment has been, we become really used to it right now. But yeah, touching on that game, I mean, if you look at the way the Boks started, I really think that, the Heat Island, the surprised island, by the amount of what they got, and the shape of the attack, and I mean, if you look at that Berkeley Arend's try, I mean, he caught Osborne flat-footed, and I mean, it was, he beat him, he stepped on the inside, caught him flat-footed, and I mean, he was coming on the cover. But it just shows you the amount of what they got, and especially with Kolisi and Peter Steff, running between the trenches in the 15-yard line. So it shows you how much, what Tony Brown has already done with that squad. They didn't put Ireland away. That's the concern. That's the one part that Rusty would go on this week. You know what? We did not put them away because we had chances. We had our half caps, and we tried to force passes. A few passes didn't go to a hand. A few passes we should have kept on, set up the ruck, set up another phase, and then come again to the change direction, or set a few rucks up and being a little bit more patient. That's maybe something, an area that they are looking at. But I mean, if you're looking at the shape there, the attacking shape there, I mean, the way they went, the way the lineouts function, I think they're very, very happy, with how they, for start, how they went on. Because, I mean, I wouldn't take too much from the Wales game, because it was more of a practice, a run heat out for them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they really, that caught the eye, the attacking shape really caught the eye.
Yeah, the stat that stood out to me was 175 passes for the Boks. And they, in previous games, don't normally go above 120 and sometimes don't even go above 100. So that really jumped out to me of like, okay, no, now I'm seeing it. Because a lot of people were talking after the Wales game about the Tony Brown effect. And I was like, I'm not sure if I see it just yet because it was against a poor Welsh side. But in this game, I was like, oh, no, okay, this is different. Like you said, Kolisi and Peter Steff being used as edge forwards. I don't recall seeing Peter Steff running like that in the channels in like almost the 13 channels as he did before. It was terrifying, but it was very effective as well. So it's kind of created an interesting question because look, Boks now ranks number 1 in the world, double world champions, beat the British and Irish Lions. Now number 2 in the world has come to their place and lost, but they're changing the game plan to this, and it feels like always like the forbidden fruit for South Africa, right? Like So South Africa rugby's got its DNA, which is something that you and I have talked about before. But then they always think, oh, no, we need to evolve and become more attacking now. And it always feels like it's about to go wrong. But what I find interesting is they've gone to this new game plan with this new Tony Brown attacking system. And they're going to grow into it and more. But at the moment, they're playing it with pretty much the same team that was playing the old game plan. Like Damien Dealendi, for example, is still there playing 12. He's still amazing. But he's now passing rather than carrying every time. I think he passed the ball 12 times, and I think he carried into contact 6 times. Although 3 of those times, I think, were on Peter O'Mahony in the space of about 2 seconds. But it's created this now question of, will the Boks stick with these players? Or, especially in the back line, with the talent that's coming through in South Africa, Are we going to start seeing these players be phased out and more, shall we say, natural razzle dazzlers start to come into the team? What do you reckon?
I don't think so, because I think the DNA of South Africans, we always have big forwards and physical back in South Africa, so we can always fall back on that. And I mean, if he was looking to phase out the Razzle Dazzle, or shift over to the Razzle Dazzle, I mean, you wouldn't see the 6-2 split anymore. It give more room on the bench for another back to come in. I don't think that's the case. I think it's just evolving his game, and keeping up with opponents guessing, because they can play the kicking game. They're familiar with it. They played it for almost 8 years now. And moving on to this game with Tony Brown's playbook, I mean, it's just showing them they evolving their game. This basically another trick up the sleeve so they can catch you off guard. I don't think if they go to Ireland or France or away, I don't think they go and play this game. I know when they play away, but because they're comfortable playing at home, they're playing at altitude, they can tire you out. I think that's why they're going ahead with this expansive game. But like I said, it's another trick in their in their armor or trick up the sleeve. So I mean, they really, I mean, there's no harm to do this because they have the players to play this game as well, and they have the physical players to go back to play physically.
Yeah, well, we've seen some New Zealand podcasters this week come out and say that it's kind of a bit scary seeing that the Boks can do this as well. They could already do all the upfront stuff that's in their DNA, but if they're now able to do this as well, the Boks are kind of blazing the trail at the moment, and you kind of draw the parallels to the Bulls in the URC of probably had the best pack in the URC, although I do think Glasgow's pack is massively underrated. But the Bulls had that incredible pack, but they also scored the most tries in the competition by a long way, broke the record for the most tries ever in the URC. Most of those coming from the backs with KLA, Caden Moody, and David Creel, who's not even in the Springbok squad. That's how good it is. So I just, like you said, they've got the players who can do this. It's one of those annoying stereotypes about South African rugby is that all their players is just the bash things. I'm like, have you seen their backs are amazing. Jesse Creel has had 2 phenomenal games back to back against Wales and then Ireland. For 13s to get man of the match, that's not easy. Normally, man of the match is a loose forward or a fly half or something. Speaking of fly halves, Pollard didn't have a vintage day off the kicking tee. The point has been made that if Manny Lebok had that performance, people would be marching in the street demanding his head. What's kind of your view with the South Africa 10 jersey at the moment? Which feels a crazy question to ask after what Andre Pollard has done in the World Cups. But if they are going to this new game plan, is he the player for that? Or would you argue that some of the other options are more naturally suited to the new game plan?
Oh, I'd say, it's difficult because, I mean, Andre Pollard just came in and won the Boks World Cup. He was brilliant, world class, with clutch kicks, had 100% kicking rate percentage at the World Cup. And I mean, the Irish flower struggled as well. Just can't get his name now, but he was struggled as well kicking the pole. So I mean, both flowers there's points on the table. But for me, with Andre Pollard I'm not a massive Pollard fan, but I'm not a hater. I credit him for what he's done and how good he is. Yes, he doesn't have a long range pass. Yes, sometimes he doesn't find his man with a pass. His passing game is not the best, but he's been clutch and he's been in situations, and he's got a team for. I know you're a very big Manny Lebok fan, and I mean he's done good at URC level, and he's for the Ireland game at the World Cup. He's never let his country really down, and maybe England as well in the semi-final. But here's my thing of Manny Lebok and Pollard. How long are they keeping the jersey until we see the rise of Sasha? And I've said it before that I think Sasha is the one in 3 years' time that will lead this pocket deck. So I think more of transitioning a Pollard out and getting Sasha familiar with the environment. I think that's one to keep an eye on more than Lebok, replacing Pollard at the moment. I think if there's one person that's going to replace Pollard in the few years' time, it's going to be Sasha. I don't think Lebok comes in now and really replaces Pollard because I mean at Lassie, One thing I can say about Rasmus is he does have loyalty to certain players. We've seen it with Dwayne Vermeulen. I mean, we've seen it with a few other guys as well. Even Etzebeth wasn't in form last year. Rasmus stayed loyal to him. So he does have loyalty, and I think he does have loyalty to Pollard as well. But I mean, if you're going to have a guy whose ceiling is higher than Lebok and Pollard, and that's Sasha, and he's in the wings, I think in 2 or 3 years' time, we'll see Sasha, take over from this Bok team, basically.
Part of me feels like Sasha's almost too talented. And the fact that he can cover pretty much any position in the back line, for me, he's been used as a 10 so far.
Mm-hmm.
But is he going to find himself in that Damien Willemse role? And when Damien Willemse is back fit, where does he fit in? Willie LaRue's had a sensational season. And we see with his distribution, it doesn't mind a forward pass. I will say that about Willie LaRue. But I think the thing is that Sasha's not playing 10 for the Stormers.
That's the problem. But how long before Dobble does that, makes that change? Because, I mean, yeah, fair enough, he's a good 12 as well, but I mean, you're going to need him running the show at 10. I always look back with Sasha with this, and I look at when Dan Carter came on the scene at the Crusaders, and you had Aaron Major and Andrew Mertens as well. They shifted Carter into 12, and then later he replaced Mertens at 10, and that's where he really came into his own, although he was selected in the All Black team as a 12, covered 10 because of the work he done at 12. So I always look at that, but I always think to myself, it's going to come a time when Sasha's going to push Lebok, you understand? He's really going to push. Either he's going to cause Lebok to lift his game even higher, or he's going to replace him in the teams and be one of the two. Yes, he can play 12, but we don't want for Sasha the same problem that we had with Damien Willemse, where what is his best position? It's now fullback for the Boks, but for the Stormers it's 12. Get what I'm saying? We don't want somebody like that. You want the specialist. You really want this guy driving the team because he's an exceptional talent, and we all know that. And they had the same thing with Pollard because of the similar situation when Pollard came to the squad. He was also 21, 22 when he came to the Boks squad. So, yeah, I really think it's difficult because we don't want to see a player as that player number 23, because then you're going to have the same situation like you have with the All Blacks and McKenzie now, where we were used to him being an impact player in this team, fullback or so. We don't give him that recognition when he does, get his chance at 10 because we always have it in the back of my mind. He's more of an impact player. But I really think this guy has everything to be the 10. So I really think long-term plan, would be to get him in that jumper.
He could well be South Africa's best goal kicker as well, which I think is not something that a lot of people talk about Sasha, but his goal kicking in terms of the difficulty of the kicks that he takes on, arguably puts him is something that, again, it's crazy to say because you've got Pollard who's done what he's done in World Cups, but Pollard's overall percentages all year round aren't actually that special. Now, who cares if it wins you World Cups, but Sasha could be a level above that. And that's kind of what's, again, scary about South African rugby.
Yeah. And also, if you look at people are saying, but why don't Tony Brown or why don't the Boks do Sasha at 12? But if you look at the Tony Brown teams that he's coached, if you look at the Highlanders, he likes a big 12. Like he had Malachi Fikitua at 12 or 13. He had Tompkinson, at 12. So he likes a big 12, that's going to set up play for you, that's going to run hard, can take take it directly from 9 and get you over that advantage. And he likes that, and I mean, that South Africa has so much big and strong 12s as well. So I don't know if the skill sets of Esterhuizen or the Islander, how it will improve. I don't know how long and how much mileage they have on their clock, because the South African team is not that young as well, because I mean, there's a few guys
exactly.
as well. So
average age of 30.
They do have, but I mean, if you look at the guy like Andre Esterhuizen, he's hardly played a lot of test rugby. So I mean, he's still got a lot of test matches up his sleeve. You get what I'm saying? Though he's been, he still have a lot of test matches, up his, to play. So yeah, that's also one.
I don't know. I feel like if Esterhuizen was going to be the guy, we'd know by now. I think he's always going to be.
I also feel
tail end he stands in.
You feel like that, but then you also look at the guy that, I mean, Ethan Hooker that they got from the Sharks. I mean, he's a
Mm.
similar type of player. The Lion centers, I can't get his name now. Ezedenko van
Cronje?
Wyk, Cronje and van Wyk, also big guys, I don't see them going for Kriel. I know you're a very big fan of Kriel, or maybe Willems at 12. Maybe, but then okay, you're taking a lot of physicality out of that backline. And where they're gonna get the punch from? Because if you're looking
Mm.
at a team, you're gonna at least have one or two backline players that can give you that punch as well, So I don't know if they're gonna go that route.
Speaking of physicality, we have to touch on it. Ender's been doing a bit of engagement farming on Twitter. So the Matt Williams quote about the 6-2 split. So obviously the first thing to say is Ireland's used the 6-2 split 3 times in the Six Nations. Nobody said anything. So you know what it is. And it's not the 7-1 split. But let's just humor it for a second. Is there any reason why excuse me, a heavy forward split on the bench is problematic in any way?
Okay. So I'm not against the 6-2 split. I'm really not against it. I mean, I think it worked well when it was used for the Boks. I mean, it won them 2 World Cups. So, it really worked well for them. I don't think it's a disadvantage for them. For the other teams, it can backfire, because they don't have that hybrid player in a Kwagga Smith or somebody that can fill both roles. I always look at, the All Black, maybe the weekend with the All Blacks. I mean, giving Anton in the Brown, who was the reserve centre, the last 10 minutes, what real impact is he going to have on the game? You get what I'm saying? Last 5 or 10 minutes, what real impact is he going to have? So you could have then put another forward. But then again, let me put it this way. When you're having a guy like Sia Kolisi, who was having his best game in 2 or 3 years, taking up carries, getting over the advantage line. Now you're making that premeditated change to bring on those 6 subs. Because when you brought on Marco van Staden, he wasn't as strong as Sia and carries. You get what I'm saying? So sometimes 6-2 split can work, but the changes don't need to be premeditated. I always say yes, 6-2 split, yeah, but I would rather have in the last 10 minutes even Etzebeth on the field than someone Murat. Get what am I saying? He's got that, he's world class. So it doesn't need to be premeditated. Although the 6-2 split has worked well for the Boks, it's just who the 2 fours that you're having on the field, who are they? Get it? So I mean they normally leave Kwagga and Peter Steph on. I think their plan now is to get Eben Etzebeth to the next World Cup and look after him. That's why they're looking after his conditioning. But I still believe that the changes shouldn't be premeditated, and it doesn't have a negative effect on the game because there's a lot of teams that done that. La Rochelle uses it as well. Also uses the 6-2 splits now and then. So it's not just the Boks that use it. They elevated the game, and they use a tactic that nobody else really thought about. And other teams are too scared to try to use it. But also, like I can go the other way. Look at the All Blacks the weekend. They had Anthony in the Brown on the bench as the outside back centre cover. What real change did he make in the game coming on in the last 10 minutes? So also got to look at it. It would be nice if we had a 9 that could play maybe 10 and cover outside. Then it would be nice. Then you could really go with a 6-2 split. If we had one back that can cover 2 or 3 positions, like Damon Willems, like Sasha, like Grant Williams can. So the Boks can do it because they have cover on. They have a wing and a scrum of cover, and they have a guy that can play centre, fullback, and fluff. So why not?
Yeah, exactly. I really liked how Razzie brought them all on at the same time. And the reason I like it specifically in this game is because I thought in the Six Nations, Andy Farrell did a really great job of taking the initiative with his substitutions. He made them quite early, normally using 50 55 minutes. And it was whenever, because in all games, in all international matches, there's a period where the opposition is on top for a bit. And I thought that was a really good way that Andy Farrell used to wrestle back momentum in the game and get back on top. And certainly against Wales, I know Wales were never going to beat Ireland, but it really kills the momentum that Wales had, and it got Ireland back in the driving seat of that game. Just to stick on Ireland as well, I mean, the game was millimeters. There was moments in that game, and I've seen people say James Lowe was undone by his own brilliance. He successfully managed to keep a ball in like a penalty to touch in. Well, it was, you couldn't conclusively say that it was definitely
either way.
But and who chases that?
Yeah,
That's completely credit Colby for getting that. He makes that try because he chases it. Who chases? Kicks the touch. But James Lowe does that. Later on, James Lowe gets the fingertips to the kickoff that's probably going dead from Sasha. It's probably an overhit from Sasha.
And that came from the first kick, in the back of his mind. And I mean, that is why he did that. He didn't know his positioning on the field, So I think that comes from that.
That I keep wanting to call it a flying wedge. I know that's not what it is, but the kind of arrowhead formation Ireland did for their try that Conor Murray scored, I thought that was great.
Brilliant.
I loved that.
Even the way you can't call it obstruction, but the way they took Steenkamp out, the way I mean, that's dark arts. I mean, the All Blacks been doing that all the years, That's dark arts. So that was brilliant.
And it's a set call off a goal line dropout as well.
Yeah, and everybody ran at the same pace, same time. That was. No, it was that was really it was a nice try.
Yeah, and Ryan Bird's try in the corner when everyone was like completely shattered and you thought Ireland had done here. I loved that as well. Ryan Bird, a ridiculously good player. Ryan Bird would be starting for pretty much any other Six Nations team for me. I think he's fantastic. Craig Casey had a great game at scrum half as well. Glad his injury doesn't seem too bad because that was a bit nasty at the time.
And I think the props were well prepared. I think Portier and Furlong were well prepared against Ox and Malherbe, but what they did was they didn't give them space. And we saw Malcolm Boks complain a few times that they're not getting space, and that's why they got a few free kicks and they got a penalty from it for the early engagement. So they weren't giving them space. And what happened was South Africa assessed us, and in the second half when they brought on Koch and Steenkamp, they scrummed. They changed their tactics at scrum time, and Furlong and Portier didn't get their change at scrum time anymore. But because they didn't give them the space, they frustrated, Bongi and Ox and Malherbe. That's when Marks came on. The first thing he told the referee was, "I'm not getting space." And that's the scrum we did it with Africa once they adjusted. The referee allowed them to adjust. But it was well done. The scrum, they studied the scrum because they didn't really concede scrum penalties in the first half. In the second half only, they conceded scrum penalties when Steenkamp and Koch came on.
Steenkamp's eyes must have lit up when it was like a scrum on the 5 meter to win the game. This is what you dream of when you're a South African prop, and it happened. So it was just perfect. It's an iconic rugby moment. I love it. But going back to Ireland again, the Doris being held up over the line, that's millimeters again, easily on another day. So they had a ruled out try as well that was correctly ruled out for kicking the ball on the floor.
Marginal as well for it was marginal because the clear outers who came, when he was committed to kicking. So, he wasn't with the clear out came just in time and he fell. So this was a margin. The other day he kicks before he gets clean. So
if you look at the stats for this game, you kind of come away the impression that the best team won. And in some ways, if you think Pollard nails his kicks, it's a bit of a battering, really. It's 30 plus points, and the Boks don't normally score 30 plus unless it's against particularly weak opposition. But at the same time, you look back at that game and you think, Ireland could have won this. There's a world that Ireland won this game. There's a parallel universe somewhere. So just to finish on this review of this game, what do Ireland do in Durban this week to reverse the result?
It's difficult because I don't know who's fit. I know Sheehan is out. And we already said that Portier is doubtful. And we already mentioned that there's no way that the Irish pack or the run-ons, the impact players, the bench, because that's what they call to their run-ons or impact, are as good as their starting team, So that's for me is already a problem. There's a big gap between, especially within the tight five, between the starting players and the bench. So I'm not sure if Portier doesn't play, if he can do the same job Portier does. I'm not sure. Without Sheehan there, will they be able to do it? But I think in Durban, they need to prepare better because they need to prepare and know what the Boks can go wide and they can the physical approach. So they need to prepare for both, and also they need to with Ireland also they need to really try and get some more territory with the Boks and keep them in the arm off. And once they get in the boxes half and get ball, they need to come up with points. because there was a few times, they didn't come up with points at Loftus. So you're really going to have to do that against the Boks and take your chance. Really take your chances, no silly mistakes, no individual errors leading to tries or one-on-one slip tackles, knock-ons into players' hands. So maybe they do that, they can do, but it's going to be a tough ask for them. The Boks will be better next week, and Ireland's going to be, they're going to lose a few players as well because the Boks already announced their team again with the same team. I don't know who. I know Casey won't play, Sheehan won't play, we're not sure Portier. So they're ready, it's really adjustments they have to make to their team as well. It's not like they have Hugo Keenan waiting in the wings or starting, so they could call him Osborne. Osborne is starting now. So it's really going to be tough for them, but they're just going to have to be brave. I mean, we saw it in New Zealand, in the second test in New Zealand. The first test, they were beaten, they were around the park, and there was a lot of guys injured. And the next game they came back, they regrouped and they came back and they won the test. So maybe they can use that, as inspiration and something from it and just get themselves back into. But I mean, it's going to be difficult for them without, their world-class play in Sheehan, and Portier is not that bad as well if he's not playing.
Can't wait though. Let's talk about the All Blacks. So the All Blacks got a squeaky 16-15 win at Dunedin against England. Very much looks like a first game back when you watch them. It did feel like it was rusty. It felt like a new team. It kind of felt like they were overplaying at times. I would say that they were trying to do perfect rugby when rugby would have been what was needed at times. England very much carried on what they were doing in the Six Nations. A lot of the same tactics, didn't reinvent the wheel. Yeah, I know you're very interested in what goes on in the All Blacks. What did you make of Razor's first ever game in charge?
Oh, it's difficult. It's difficult to judge it. I think he just passed. For me, they just passed. I'd give them a C plus. Just got a pass mark. But you saw them play two different styles. In the first half, they threw the ball around, tried to, get around the rush defense, tried to get through the rush defense. In the second half, they went closer. They had used more tactical kicking. The kicking was better. They played a little bit more of 9, had more direct running. So those two contrasting styles over there. So I think for them, it's a work in progress. But I think, like Razzle also said in his post-match, if you do want to watch a post-match interview, a very good one, please have a look at his post-match interview. Very insightful. I don't know how he'll be 3 or 4 games down the line and with start to lose how insightful he'll be. But I mean, he was very insightful. But like you said, it felt they were one pass away, from breaking the English defense. And concerning for him would be that the rush defense still gave him grey hair. So that's now since the British and Irish Lions Test series in 2017. They're still struggling with the rush defense. So I don't know, but I mean, looking at the brains trust and the coaching team that they have, then the IP they have, I'm sure they have a plan with it. But yeah, for me, I think they did okay. I think there's a lot of negativity said towards Damien McKenzie. I think he went okay. I think he went okay for circumstances, for the combination and UNESCO. I think he went okay. I think if you're looking at, the way, a few adjustments he can make as to where he stands and how he approaches, the rush defense, that will come on later on. And I mean, that will come with video footage and with experience in playing a situation. But I think he went okay. If you look at the try that Sevo rescored, I think that's a style that Razor's going to want to play, keeping the ball in there in multiple phases, direct running, running hard, post-match meters. That will be okay. But the problem is for New Zealand, and the big problem that, if I was Razor from this week, and the big takeaways, they never made a lot of post-contact meters. I mean, with the amount of possession they had, they never got over the advantage line. So he's going to need to look at his squad and to say, okay, can I get a few of my bigger props in here, there's bigger, better ball carriers, so that to get over the advantage line for me, or maybe bring in a bigger backline play, maybe bring in a Caleb Clark.
There's this guy playing number 8 for the Blues this season was pretty good at that, wasn't he?
Ah, he was. He was. I just hope he doesn't end up playing for England, but yeah. Yeah, enough on that. But I mean, but that's what we can look at. I mean, they weren't making a lot of post-contact meters, and that's a problem. And also, like one of the big ball carriers in Ori Sevilla, he was a little bit off pace. coming from Japan,
Yeah.
into this. It was never, it's going to take him a game or two to adjust to that tempo and that physicality. So there's a few things there, but I think they'll improve this weekend. I think they'll be much better
Caleb
this
Clark
weekend.
solve that issue, maybe? Help solve that
I
issue?
think so. I think you will, but then you're going to drop Mark Delia, who beat 11 defenders. So I don't know if you're going to do that, but I mean, I think Caleb Clark solved that issue. I think
Mm.
he's proven this year that, he's put his hand up, he's looked fitter, his aerial game is better, he looks hungry for work, he looks faster. So I think he solved that issue. I think they do that 145 kilogram prop. Maybe one of them comes into the bench. The Mighty Williams or Tossie, just to give them there. Because there's a lot of pressure on the two locks, Patrick Tupelotu and Scott Barrett, to make carries. It's a lot of pressure on them to make carries and to make, good carries. So I know Scott Barrett doesn't mind it, but I mean, they're going to need to get another 2 or 3 guys to really carry and to carry on and get their body positioning in carries as they were doing in Super Rugby. Getting your body position, not so much how big you are, just getting your body position that can make that post contact meters. An interesting thing that I thought of a few years ago of Leon McDonald, who's the assistant coach, and he always believed that if you carry, you should average about 4.5 meters per carry. And I think the All Blacks was on under 3.5 meters a carry. So just show you that, they were not getting anywhere near the advantage line. So maybe start to carry direct of 9, with Van Christie playing, maybe start
They
carrying with
didn't really
9.
play off 9, did they? Everything went through DMac. And I
Yeah,
think
you
that
start
kind of
carrying with
didn't
9.
help. I don't think that helped DMac. I think he was trying to overplay. I very much got the
Yeah,
sense that he was like, oh, this is my chance. If I'm going to be the All
I
Blacks
need to
number
take
10, it needs to be now. And I can imagine how it would have felt with Bodie coming on, and the impression was like a few of the tweets were, an adult is now on the pitch now that
Yeah,
Bodie is here. And
yeah.
Bodie didn't really do anything incredible. He just kicked the
Well,
ball,
just
but it
just kick the
worked.
ball and it was calm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also there's the other joke that, with Richie Mwanga sitting in the stands, they said they wouldn't be surprised if Razor before the game and said, hey, look who came to visit. So Richie putting extra pressure on Daniel
Yeah.
McKenzie.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
gosh.
no, I think the plan with him is I think the fair plan would be give him until the end of the championship, the rugby championship. Give him a few games.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
give him a decent run. And if it does not work and you see he doesn't have the tools for test match rugby, or you see he's going to be like we explained with the 23 position, the impact player of the bench, then you really go out and bring Richie Mwanga back, but give him until then, and let him add his flavor and make this jersey his own, because you can't give a guy 1 or 2 tests and then chop and change because they had a bad test now.
No, I agree. I think keep it with it. I think we're in for one of the most interesting rugby championships for a long time. Sometimes the rugby championship can be quite bland, to be honest. But with the Boks new game plan and a new New Zealand team, and we'll come on to Joe Schmidt's project in Australia as well, it really gives something. And I'll be fascinated to see when South Africa go down to New Zealand, or even at home to New Zealand, will they
They're not
suddenly
going to see that. So
will
they're
they
playing
suddenly
South
decide,
Africa.
actually, we're not going to throw the ball around that much today?
They're playing New Zealand twice at home, so in South
Oh
Africa.
yeah.
So yeah, so they're going down to Australia twice. That's also not going to be easy because they don't really, they don't have the best of results in Australia. So that's going to be, interesting to see. But with the championship, the positive thing for Razor is he has England the weekend, then he has Fiji, then he has 2 games against Argentina in New Zealand. So, it's perfect for him to build up to South Africa,
Builds
2
up to
tests in
it,
South
yeah.
Africa, and really target those 2 tests in South Africa. Maybe to win one would be his target realistically. I don't think he wins both, but maybe try and win one, retain the Freedom Cup, come back home and try and win the Rugby Championship. That will be a success for him because he has a terrible end of year tour as well. I think he has Italy, England, France, and Ireland. So he's got a tough 14 tests this year. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I think it's work in progress. I mean, he's had 8 days, and 8 days he's got so many assistant coaches, so many statisticians there. It's going to take time for them to get the IP and the message through to everybody.
That's kind of the flip side. If you look at it from an English point of view, you've got a settled team.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a game plan that everyone understands now. And you're going up against New Zealand that's had 8 days together, new coach. We forget how many big names aren't playing for New Zealand anymore. It's arguably 3 or 4 of their best players aren't there. It's in Dunedin. It's not in Auckland. I seem to hear this every year. You'll never have a better chance to beat the All Blacks. It seems to come around every year, and no one ever does. Or very few people ever do. Very, very few people ever do. And that's kind of the thing, because you said there you'd award the All Blacks a C+ for this game. England are that's probably an 8 out of 10 performance for England, 8.5 out of 10. There's not much further to go on the ceiling for that team, and they still didn't win. That's probably why Jamie George after the game saying that hurts, because I think he knows that you're not going to get a better shot than that. And I think we would both agree it's not going to be that close this weekend.
Yeah. But just on Jamie George, what a player. He built like a baker. But he gave 19 tackles in 59 minutes in the game. It's for a hooker on Saturday. What a play. It doesn't look like the world's best hooker. But I mean, he's solid. He's been solid for Saracens, solid for England. So, what a play. If you're looking at his build, you wouldn't think he's that kind of player. But I mean, what a player. I really, he gained more respect from me this weekend as well. And I think the 6 flank Cunningham South.
Yeah,
he looked like a proper player. Ben Earls.
I hate praising Harlequin's players, because God knows they get enough praise as it is. But so if there's a Harlequins player and I'm not bashing them, that means I must think that they're really good.
No, but I think Borswick has something there. With his backline players as well. I think they've got attacking back and exciting backs. But I like the loose trio with Earls. I think Tom Currie can come in, but I don't know how fit he is. But I mean, Underhill and Cunningham South, I think they'd be. And George Martin, Itoji. Like I said, Itoji always has the best game against New Zealand. He just wakes up from the dead and, has a stormer. And, the line-out functions well. Like, I just saw the weekend, New Zealand couldn't even compete at their line-out. It was so well, but functioning so well. And they gave New Zealand a problem at line-out time as well. So I think they have a base to work from you, even though we, might not be the biggest England fans. But it's how, it's what they think their ceiling is. Do they honestly believe that in 4 years' time they can win a World Cup? Or do they think, in 2 years' time they can overthrow France and Ireland and win the Six Nations? Do they think that? Or are they going to be okay with these kind of performances? Coming close to beating New Zealand, coming close to beating Ireland or France, beating them now and then. So that is for them where they're going to have to make the step, and what is the expectation.
I would be surprised if England do win the next Six Nations, if no other reason that no one has ever won 3 Six Nations in a row. So we're due to have another winner, and it could well be Ireland. The only thing is, it could well be England. The only thing is, I think England have to go away to Ireland and France.
No, they play France at home. They play France away. Yeah, they play France.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes, they did. Okay. They've got to play Wales away, but that's probably not going to be hard. Speaking of, let's talk about Australia first. So, is it fair to say that Joe Schmidt has already done more with Australia than Warren Gatland has done with Wales since he's come back?
It's difficult because, I mean, I think Australia was so filled with so much emotions and so much off-field issues in the past month or two with the Rebels folding and few of the big name players going off to league or going overseas. I think they had so much emotion. I mean, the Brumbies, with their financial problems as well, that, Joe Schmidt decided that I'm going to choose my team locally or just from Australians for Super Rugby, and with the Brumbies going out earlier, gave him an extra week to prepare for them to get into camp. So I think, he was well prepared in that sense, but also Wales are not the strongest. So it's just really difficult. But I did like what I saw from Australia. But then again, it's Wales. It hasn't been, very, really good this season.
Oh, coming at it from a Wales fan's point of view, a lot of people talking about Wales losing 8 in a row. And I'm kind of thinking, well, that's not really the point, because Gatland didn't pick a team to win the game. That 15 that took the field against Australia is not the best 15 that Warren Gatland has available to him. Whether you talk about some of the players that weren't selected to go on the tour, or even the players that were selected, there's I'm not being horrible, but there are players who started for Wales or came on off the bench for Wales against Australia who shouldn't be playing international rugby. It's as simple as that. They're not ready. Their career at club level hasn't warranted them getting picked. I would love for them all to go and have incredibly successful international careers. But as of now, today, they're not those players. And what you've got in Warren Gatland is a coach who knows he's not going to get sacked, whether it's because the WRU don't have anyone above him with the rugby IQ to challenge him, which is something that England struggled with Eddie Jones for ages, or he's already offered his resignation, or they can't afford to sack him because his payout would be too big and they haven't got enough money, which is a atrocious reason to not sack someone. Like, if he's the wrong person, he's the wrong person, he's got to go. But he's now picking teams that he doesn't care about winning the game. If he cared about winning the game, he would have picked a different team.
It's true.
And
it's just frustrating. If you look at that Australian team, sorry to break it, I mean, it wasn't even the strongest Australian thing. I think they were soft underbelly. I mean, Leinster fans can hype up Tanalala Tupou signing for them. I think he's a flat track bully. I don't think he's lived up to the hype that we expected from him. I don't think he's a strong scrummager. He's a good ball runner, but I mean, he stays injured. Australia's struggling at hooker. Australia's locks is really inexperienced.
No Skelton, no Arnold.
No Skelton, no Arnold, no Frost didn't play. He didn't use Darcy Swain as well. He had Slipper, in there, and at least he was only
Angus Bell's injured, isn't he? No Angus Bell.
Bell's injured. But I mean, if you look into that team, he's got a crisis at hooker as well. The loose is also this. Besides, let's put it like this: who from that Australian team gets into the All Black or the African 23?
None. I don't think any.
I could think of one in the pack. Bellatini, the 8th one. I can think of him. Yeah. He's good. I can think of him. And maybe Tom Wright at fullback. Maybe, because he's also good. But other than that, I can't think of anybody else. I can't. So it just shows you the Australian team that Wales was playing against, And if I ask you this question, because I always ask this, if you had looked at the Welsh team playing the weekend in 23, how many of them, you don't need to mention who, but how many of them would be in your ideal starting team if it were fit and available?
It's a good question. A few. I think definitely Dewi Lake, definitely Plumtree and Wainwright. Scrum half is a bit funny. I think Thomas Williams is a big mess. He's injured at the moment. That's probably about it. No, Rio Dyer and Liam Williams, I think.
And fullback.
Cam Winnett didn't play at the weekend.
He didn't play. He didn't play.
So that's kind of probably about it. I would have Ben Thomas in there, but at 12, not at 10, because Sam Costello is clearly the best 10. It's when we came up against an Australian team, however bad we think Welsh rugby is at the moment, Australian rugby is in a worse place, arguably in the worst place anywhere in the world. They got run into the ground by Eddie Jones. They had all the above, boardroom level issues that anybody else has got. They didn't pick some of their best players who were playing abroad. We've mentioned Skelton and Arnold, two of the best locks in Europe, not picked because he's decided I'm only picking Australian-based players. They had 5 training sessions together. And Australian rugby has got this thing called NRL, which is not a problem. There's nothing like that exists in Wales. You could say that in the UK, there's the competition between soccer and rugby, but there's not that crossover. You don't see players going between the two like you do NRL and Union. And Australia won quite easily. It's not really acceptable, to be honest. Gatland can say he's doing a hard reset and building for the future. For me, there needs to be someone above him at the WRU that rings him up and says, you can't lose 8 games in a row, Warren. Because I promise you, come this autumn, that Principality Stadium won't be selling out. And if it gets to there's 10,000 empty seats, that's when this whole we're backing Gatland to the hill will start to change. Because that's when it starts hitting the WRU in the pocket.
But the problem is, The problem is, if you look at it realistically, you look at it, Wales at the World Cup weren't bad. They were not bad.
Lost to a bad Argentinian team in the quarterfinal.
They lost, but I mean, come on. I mean, they could have won that game. You know, they could have won. They should have made a semi in the World Cup. They were not bad. And if you're looking at that Welsh team in the World Cup that beat Australia and gave Australia proper highlight. And that Australian team, okay, the morale in the squad wasn't where it is now, but on paper it's a stronger team than what we played against on Saturday. So a weakened Australian team actually beat Wales, to show you how the way Wales went backwards. I always said that, if you're not going to sack Gatlin, at least get somebody in, like the Boks did with Tony Brown, like Foster did when he brought in Joe Schmidt and Jason Ryan. Maybe do something like that, and get somebody in that's willing to work with Gats, or Gats is willing to work with him, just to shake up this team a little bit, because I don't think you don't have the talent. I saw this Ospreys team playing against the Stormers, and I'm like, there's a few guys in here that can play. But when I looked at them, the team sheets, I'm like, where are those Ospreys players? Where they're hardly in the squad. Where's what's the Eitzman and all of those guys that played later? Where are they? So you got to look at that as well. Who's been on form that you've been selecting also, or is it just selecting a young team? And I don't know. I really feel for Wales. I sat in the stands a few years ago and watched Wales, achieve history in South Africa by winning the first test in Bloemfontein. And I saw the joy and the passion in the Welsh supporters' faces, because they didn't expect to win that game and they won it. And I still feel that, for a big country like that, who's been, since the new millennium, has been relatively dominant in the Six Nations as well, winning a few Six Nations trophies as well. I think that, they badly run, not making brave decisions. And I think it's sad to see, Welsh rugby. As sad as it is to see Australia's rugby, the Welsh game is the same.
Yeah. That's enough of that then, I think. So running through some other results. So Scotland beat Canada. We weren't not expecting anything different. Canada, I had a look at Canada's results. I think they won something 4 or 5 games since 2019. I think, and it's not like they play
Scotland.
Sorry?
Why are they doing Scotland and Japan is playing against the New Zealand Maoris? Why is Scotland doing Canada and Japan is playing against the New Zealand Maoris? Who does these things?
I don't know. I want to ask you a question about the Maoris in a minute, but so Canada, you look at Canada's fixtures as well. When I say they lose that many games, it's not like they're playing New Zealand and the Springboks every week. They're playing I think they played Spain twice and lost both. Spain are the 4th best team in Rugby Europe and comfortably better than Canada. That's the state that Canada are in. In some other results, Romania beat the USA. USA, you're probably going to qualify for the next World Cup because it's 24 teams. Definitely qualified for 2031 because they're hosting it. If they don't want to be embarrassed when they get to these things, we know World Rugby is basically doing everything it can to make sure that the USA Rugby thing succeeds. It got to start working soon, because remember what we saw with Romania at the World Cup, to be losing at home to them, not really acceptable.
Every second or every third South African rugby player who doesn't make it at the Bulls or Stormers, the fringe players, they all up going to the USA now. So there's quite a lot of South Africans playing in the USA now. Quite a lot of South African coaches playing in the USA. I'm coaching there now. So yeah, I think World Rugby is really trying everything with the USA.
Yeah. So Japan beat the Maori All Blacks, lost to them last week. The Maori, right? Okay, I don't quite get the Maoris. I thought Maoris was like the B team or the kids team, but it doesn't seem to work like that. What is the Maoris?
You have to be a Maori. So traditionally a Maori, you have to be. So I think 1/16 of your bloodline has to be a Maori. So you have to come from a Maori camp. That's why you look at the team selections. You'll see from what camp, from region they are, Maori region they are, So you have to be a Maori 1/16 or so. You need to be a Maori to be eligible for selection. That's why you'll see guys like Oscar Sotutu, AJ Lamb, they didn't make the All Black team, but they're not in the Maori team because they're not Maori. They're Polynesians. I think AJ Lamb has got Samoan descent, and then Sotutu's Fijian descent. So there's a big thing. New Zealand do have another team, the New Zealand 15. They more or less the B team. I think they're only going to tour end of the year, but the Maoris is completely something on its own. It's Maoris, New Zealand Maoris.
Okay, cool. Learn something every day. Fiji, speaking of Fiji, they beat Georgia. Georgia, again, outside of Rugby Europe, struggling to pick up the results. They had some great results against Wales and Italy in the last couple of years, but outside of that, if they're making this noise, they're talking like they want to be treated like a tier 1 nation. You need to be beating the likes of Fiji at home for me. Remember Fiji in terms of preparation. I mean, the Fijian national side is obviously the Drua side at the moment. Although I will say that Fiji is a lot better than the Drua, considering how similar the teams are. Like when they pull on that white jersey, they get a lot better.
Yeah.
They bring in a few of the French players as well, which helps.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah,
They're all better. It's just they look like a completely different team. When they do put on that, especially under Simon, when Simon, and even under Van Cotte as well, they prove and say, but yeah, they are much different. They're a different team when they put on the Fiji jersey.
Samoa beat Italy. Samoa. So I was looking up the results. There's going to be a video on Pirate Rugby YouTube over the summer about Samoa. Samoa win most of the time. So you think of them as like a typical tier 2, but they actually win more than half their games. What do you think of Samoa then? Do you think they're one of the most underrated teams in rugby potentially?
They're one of those teams that as soon as you start to support them, they let you down. That's the problem I have with Samoa. They are underrated, but also, who do they play against you? I mean, anytime I see them,
they play against a lot of other tier 2 nations, so they do, but they beat them nearly always. I think the only kind of other tier 2 nations that play against them that regularly beat them would be Fiji and Japan, and there are those who would say that both of those are tier 1. Well, I think Japan are officially tier 1. Fiji don't have a seat on the World Rugby board, I don't think. I might be wrong. That might have changed recently, but exactly the point that we're making is that's the level of team you have to be to regularly pick up results against Samoa. And Samoa have beaten more tier 1. Well, sorry, I don't know about more nations, but Samoa have won more games against tier 1 nations than Fiji, Fiji, Japan, or Georgia, and I think have a close record to Italy against tier 1 nations. So that just, it kind of shows. I think in the record between Samoa and Italy playing each other, Samoa win quite a lot.
But we're going to need to get more of these teams touring the islands, playing these games. I mean, if, for example, next year when the Lions tour, getting maybe a team to tour and just one team to play against Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa.
There's that Rebels spot has come up, hasn't it? Because the Rebels were going to play against the Lions. They've obviously gone now. So the Drua were a suggestion of a team that could play against the Lions.
I didn't know that, but I mean, how would that clash with Fiji? Because surely Fiji would have a test that time as well, so they would be
that's true.
Be the problem.
Interesting. Maybe Moana Pacifica or something. That'd be fun. So, Samoa beat Italy. Chile beat Hong Kong, but only just. So this was interesting. So Hong Kong are probably going to qualify for the next World Cup because of 24 teams. It was 22-17 to Chile. But Hong Kong definitely want to watch over the next 4 years to see if they will be competitive at the World Cup. An obscure one, Singapore lost to Chinese Taipei. I didn't watch that one. Kind of shock you. And the final one that we haven't mentioned yet, France beat Argentina. That's, again, the stat that you alluded to, Jade. Argentina have won 10 home games in the last 9 years. Argentina just don't win at home. What is going on with them?
They don't win at home. It's frustrating because, you think after the World Cup semi-final, they would... I don't think they have made many changes to their team, but I think really thought that they would pick up from there. But it's just be Argentina and watch them beat South Africa or New Zealand away again, be typical Argentina this year. They'll do something like that. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know how much control they have. Maybe they don't feel familiar playing in Argentina as they all play abroad. I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know. It's been going on for years. It's something that I always say, you don't be scared to play Argentina there. Be scared to play them at your own home ground because that's where they can beat you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's all of the international matches that happened this weekend. Moving on to some other bits and bobs that are happening around the world. So the Under 20s World Championship is happening at the moment. So two things to talk about. Firstly, the scheduling. Why they play all of the games on the same day, I've no idea. That's a
Mm-hmm.
terrible
Mm-hmm.
arrangement. They should spread them out so that people can watch a
Much,
game a
yeah.
day or something.
Mm-hmm.
Also, apparently, as we alluded to at the beginning, the weather in
It's terrible.
South Africa isn't great at the moment. Yet they scheduled it in Cape Town, and we've had a game
Again,
called off today because the weather was so bad.
the schedule is again. Last year they had the same problem in Cape Town, and everybody asked, "Why are you having this tournament in Cape Town in June, July? Because it's wet, it rains a lot there. And if you're going to play 3 games or 4 games a day at one stadium, the time the main game or the late kickoff happens, the grass is not there anymore. It's gone look like a cabbage patch. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they did it. I don't know. It's just so unfair because if you're looking at it, the reasons why they're doing, I can't see that there's tourism for Cape Town because Cape Town gets a lot of URC games for the Stormers. They get
Yep.
and they're getting a test. Whereas us in Bloemfontein or centrally, we could host it. Here we have a big stadium. We have a lot of varsity and we have great college here as well. Or they could host it in Pretoria or somewhere there. Where it's dry. You can host this tournament, but yeah, I don't know. Or just have this tournament at smaller units, smaller countries. Give it to Ireland. Of they say Ireland is a smaller country, but give it to Georgia, Italy again. Move it around there. You don't need to have it in South
Yeah,
Africa.
Italy, great show. Probably a bit hot in
Nobody's
Italy this time of year, but
been at the games has been empty. There's been about 1,000 people at these games. It's really the attendance has been bad this one.
yeah. Well, the other point about the under 20s is the underperformance of the baby Boks. So it's starting to become a bit of a problem now. I know that you love your South African schools rugby. Why isn't that system producing a good under 20s team?
Since 2012 was the last time they won it, and that was the year they had Pollard and Peter Steff and Kitshoff. I think Kitshoff was in the squad, and Jan Serpent and all of those guys. But the big problem is if you're looking at the competition that the Welsh guys, some of the Welsh guys play in the URC. Then you have in England, a lot of them play in the Premiership. A lot of the French guys play in the top 14. South Africa, there's only been one guy that played in the URC this season, and one guy played in the top 14. So JF played for the Bulls. He played for the Bulls, and the other guy, I think it's Dian Jacobs, played for. I think he plays in the top 14 in France. There's no other experience. So the gap between school rugby and professional is becoming. It's very difficult to get into professional setup now with only 4 franchises. Yes, they play Currie Cup, but I mean, the quality of the Currie Cup and the standard of the Currie Cup is not what it was a few years ago. So you can't compare the Currie Cup to the Premiership, to the URC, to the top 14. So that's the problem, where the English teams, besides the Six Nations that, it's under 20 that they've been playing, but the English teams and the Irish guys, or not so much Irish, but the English guys and the Welsh guys and the French guys have all been playing in competition. Was in training, was senior pros week in, week out, watching guys at Saracens or at Leicester, prepping, being a part of the traveling squad. Whereas in Africa, they're playing in the under 20 competition or they're playing in the Varsity Cup. That's the problem. Big difference, The same in New Zealand as well. They don't have a lot of guys playing in Super Rugby. Australia, I really thought they would do better this year, but I mean, they have a few guys playing in Super Rugby, but that's the big thing, the big difference, The step up between at school level, these guys are brilliant. We spoke of the physicality of the Boks, Boks plays physical rugby, but if you look at our game in the Varsity Cup, Currie Cup at school level, we play running rugby, we play Razzle, Dazzle. We mix it up with physicality, So it's not really to say that our DNA is really physical rugby running it. No, 10-man rugby. No, we play a lot of Razzle Dazzle now. These kids after school, when they get into the box, or when they get into the side of the Bulls or the Cheetahs or wherever, they're not getting the opportunity to play, in the URC until they're about 23, 24, 21, 22, and that's after under 20s, where with England and those guys are playing in this or they're being a part of the squad, and that's a big problem if you're looking at it. Because you look at the squad that won it the last time, a few of those guys already played Super Rugby that time. So New Zealand had the same problem as well. But it's very difficult to get these guys game time with only 4 franchises. You can't count the cheaters because they only play in one competition, basically.
Interesting. So we'll hope that some of the games don't get cancelled and we'll be able to see who actually wins this competition. We've also got the Six Nations Women's Under-20s, which I think is like 8 teams in it. It's one of those confusing ones. Maybe I'm confusing that with something else. But basically, France are top after big wins over Wales, after a big win over Wales. England are second after they beat Ireland. Then we've got the Under-20s trophy on. Scotland have scored 224 points in 2 games, going above the 100 mark against both Samoa and Hong Kong, showing perhaps a bit of a disparity in that competition. Remember, Scotland didn't win the trophy last season, but they're not finishing bottom of the Six Nations. It's kind of a bit of a strange situation, to be honest. Japan have also scored 186 points in 2 games. So there's clearly a bit of a disparity. I think Kenya is one of the teams in this. I think Uruguay are in it as well. Just unfortunately, a bit of a disparity in quality between some of these teams. USA are top of Group B. I think Group B is a lot closer. Currie Cup's going on. So we had a question from a listener. What is the deal with the Super Rugby URC franchises playing in the Currie Cup as well? Is it the same team? Is it just like a naming rights thing? How are the franchises represented in the Currie Cup these days?
No, they all are there. The Bulls, the Lions, the Sharks, and the Stormers are there. I think Stormers always played under Western Province, but I think they
call the Western Province in this,
Western Province, yeah. So they play under Western Province, but the same guys play there. It's not like we had franchises before. So previous years, they used to split them up. We would have the Lions and the Cheetahs, and Greek was, for example, they would form the Cats, and then the Pumas would fall under the Bulls, but they don't do that anymore. So they all play, so the same guys. I mean, that all depends on your coaching and your coaches. Who's he going to have available? How's he going to use this competition? Are they going to use this competition for pre-season or not? But there's a lot of younger kids playing, a lot of fringe players playing in this competition. It's not the same guys playing. I'm not sure as we lead up into this URC season, will they, get game day? And obviously, another thing is you got to look at a few of the Boks that maybe need game time between they didn't play, and once the Boks are at home, or Bok coming back from injury and needs game time, maybe they'll play in the Currie Cup to get game time, something like that.
Oh, thank you. So Bulls won the North-South derby over Western Province, 30 points to 25. Cheetahs put 80 points on the Griffins at the weekend, which is a shame. And then in Currie Cup Division 1, Bowland are top with 4 wins from 4. And Eastern Province Elephants, which are my team, they're third, 2 wins so far, and they put a very nice 69 points on Border Bulldogs. And that brings us to the end of the show. So thank you, Jade, for joining and stepping in and joining in the very in-depth rugby chats. We will remind our viewers to tune in for the Friday Breakfast Show, which is an audio-only format. If you follow us on audio platforms, which is basically Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I don't know if anybody uses anything else. You can catch us there. And remember, you can find content on our YouTube channel that goes up every single week. Don't miss it. And we have a TikTok page as well. All of it is in the Linktree link in the description box below. So cheers, Jade. Really appreciate this chat.
Thanks. Thank you,
and everybody. We shall speak to everyone once again next time. Cheers for listening and enjoy your rugby.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.